Hi all. So this is the first time we've run something like this. It's what we call a guest speaker event. I guess the inspiration come from business, actually, working in business. I often go along to a lot of conferences or inspiring events from different corporations, and they normally have a guest speaker there for an hour just to speak on sort of industry related topics. I thought, how could we apply this to our guild? So I thought a guest speaker guild event would be something bit different, bit cool, and I thought, who could we try to get on as a guest speaker? And I thought, being a fellow Aussie, another fellow person who sleeps underneath the ACE Crucis, the Southern Cross, no one better than ZiggyD. So what I'm going to do now is throw over to Ziggy. He's going to give you a bit of background about himself and his history. We'll go into some questions which we've submitted to Ziggy beforehand, and if you've asked the question, I'll probably throw the question over to you so you can ask it directly to Ziggy. Otherwise, Adifa and myself might ask them, or like that. If you've got any questions on the fly, please just type Q in the chat message box on the side to flag that you've got a question to ask, and at the next available opportunity we'll cross over to you for Ziggy to answer your question. So without any further sort of delay, please welcome ZiggyD.
Hey man.
Awesome, thanks for having me on. It's pretty cool to stop by, even when I was doing StarCraft 2, and I spent a lot of time talking with people from the US and lots of other countries, but even when I was doing StarCraft 2, I'd try and join up with the SEA community there wherever I could, and it's cool to kind of get the chance to chat with you guys here in Australia as well. So there's not enough going on in the Australian community sometimes, and I want to try and get more involved in it. But basically, I am a full-time gamer and YouTuber, and hopefully soon to be streamer. It started about a couple months ago is when I officially went full-time, but I've been working 8 or 10 hour days on gaming related projects for the past year or two, trying to build this up. And with the launch of Path of Exile especially, things have just been going pretty awesomely. And basically, born in Australia, this should be pretty evident by the accent. But I went and did the uni thing. I went and did marketing and management there, and although that was interesting and somewhat helpful, and I did some retail, and I thought I want to be a retail manager. That's what I thought I wanted to be for a very long time. But after doing retail for a few years and having my brain leak out of my ear, I decided that I had to build something for myself that I was passionate about, and gaming kind of just happened over time out of an interest in StarCraft 2, and eventually transitioning over into Diablo 3 and then Path of Exile. And who knows where in the future? Although I expect Path of Exile is going to be a huge part of that for the next decade or so, because the game is going amazing and there's a lot of plans for the years and years to come. So thanks for having me on. I'm eager to get into the questions.
Fantastic. Okay, I'll kick off a question here first, and then Ecstasy's got a couple lined up, so while you're answering that one, I'll just remind Ecstasy which questions he had. Ziggy, what led you to Path of Exile? It's a bit of a sidestep from StarCraft 2 genre over to Action RPG. So what led you to Path of Exile? If you can just give us a bit of background there.
The process that I went through, I suppose, doesn't really make that much sense, but the reasoning as to why Path of Exile appeals to me probably does make a bit more sense. Originally, I started off mostly doing StarCraft 2. I was infatuated with the game. I loved the depth and complexity of it and how challenging it was. It showed me sort of that gaming could be a very challenging and very rewarding pursuit. So I started doing a lot of writing and eventually did a few YouTube videos for StarCraft, and kind of learned that there's this whole esports community and people that seriously play games and competitive, even people earning a living from it. So that sort of introduced me to that world. And then I sort of did some Diablo 3 from that, so getting into action RPGs. I was always a pretty big fan of Diablo 2. Never really played it as hardcore as I'm sure many of you have, though. I'd kind of missed the whole Diablo 2 online boat since my internet connection just didn't exist back then. But when Diablo 3 came out, it was pretty exciting, and I covered that on YouTube to the best of my ability, and that was right when I was getting started. And actually, before even Diablo 3 came out, I was looking for something to fill the gap. So I was looking around, and I learnt about this game, Path of Exile, and at that point, it was in closed beta, and it was invite only. There was no way to buy in at that point. And kind of trying to hope to get an invite, I applied, and nothing really happened out of that. Diablo 3 came out, and then shortly after that, I ended up buying into the Path of Exile beta and have been pretty much playing ever since then. The depth and complexity of it and how challenging it is sort of reminded me a lot of StarCraft 2. The same sort of thing that appealed to me there appealed here as well. So that was a pretty natural transition despite the big difference in game types there.
Fantastic. Ecstasy, did you get those questions that you've had lined up to ask?
Yeah. They're kind of like random question. Actually, the first one's kind of half serious. In your opinion, what is the best endgame class or build, and why?
That was with unlimited currency, right? Was the kind of
the
tag there. That's interesting because there's like really good, viable endgame classes and builds that can do every single type of map and every single mod and stuff like that. But I kind of like thought about this unlimited currency thing. It's like not something that you usually think about that often because you're like, I have to deal with limitations. But I think if you had no limitations on currency, if you, I guess, spent thousands of dollars on R&T, or for whatever other reason, maybe you just found 5 mirrors in a row or something like that, and had unlimited currency, what I would probably do is create a weapon-based build. It would probably be with swords. The reason for that is weapon-based builds tend to have higher potential than spellcaster-based builds or totems or summons or anything like that. There's a lot you can do with those with limited currency, and they can be very strong and very viable. But with a weapon-based build, you have much higher potential. Perfectly rolled weapon is going to just blow away even like a really well-made spellcaster build. So I'd probably go with swords as well because they have the highest potential out of any weapons in terms of the passives, and the fact that you're getting the accuracy implicit as well means you can go for like a crit accuracy sort of build. So that's kind of starting the theme of the build. I'd go for something like crit accuracy with swords. I'd probably go for like a max block build and either evasion or iron reflexes into armor, and just spend so much currency on getting perfect gear. So you'd be able to deal with like any reflect or anything like that because you could just spend amazing amounts of currency on getting super defensive gear and then having your weapon be insane as well and just destroy everything. And there's some people that have approached this already. I've seen people with that sort of gear and these sorts of weapons, and it can be pretty phenomenal, and that's even without unlimited currency.
Yeah, so that would be like maybe like a spectral throw or a ground slam type.
Yeah, I'd probably go like, I think the highest potential attack skill is probably like either double strike or dual strike. I suppose if you could get 2 perfect weapons, double strike would be pretty insane. So maybe something like that, I think. But spectral throw would certainly be viable. Although I think when you're getting into that range of gearing, you probably don't really need to worry about having a ranged attack, and you can probably just face tank everything in anyway. So probably double strike or something like that.
Yeah, nice. So, what's your favorite in-game dance emote and why?
I have to be honest, I haven't really played around with too many of the dance emotes. I don't own any of them myself, but off the top of my head, I think my favorite one's probably the Marauder, because I like that Path, like GGG have snuck in as many references to New Zealand as possible in their game, even like down to the grasses and stuff that spawn in the different zones are Kiwi grass. And having the Marauder do very traditional sort of Maori dance is pretty cool. I quite like that. I'm fond of it for that reason.
Yeah, same here, man.
Fantastic. All right. Next question I had here. So it's a bit down the order, but we're just jumping around a shot up here. But without breaking any of the non-disclosure sort of consent or NCs you've made, if you've got access to inside details, are you willing to make any prediction on what future Act contents will involve, and where do you think Ray class will head next after we've done with Sign?
I honestly have no idea, and not for lack of trying. I do push Chris all the time for like hints on the new upcoming patches, but sometimes he'll give me like a screenshot of an upcoming change to the passive tree or something like that a little bit in advance. But for the most part, they've been super tight-lipped about the new act, and they know what they're doing as well. It's not like they haven't got it out. They've got it all planned out. They've got acts in advance planned out, but they won't tell anyone. They won't tell us, tell Crypt. They won't tell anyone. No matter how much e-fame you have, they were keeping very secretive about that.
Okay, so okay, you can freely sort of daydream away. So where do you think we'll head?
I'm not very good at lore in action RPGs, so I reckon if you looked into the lore a lot, there might be some there. But just a guess, I'd say probably up into the mountains of the island. There's usually always mountains in like tropical sort of islands that Breakcast is. So I'm expecting to head up into the mountains. I think that would be pretty cool in terms of a setting point of view. It'd be significantly different, and it'll be super fun as well. Potentially, if the mountains are high enough, maybe there's even some snow caps or something out there. That'd be rad.
It would be.
Diva!
Right, sorry, I didn't hear you at all then, Kaysee, so I don't know, am I meant to ask a question, am I? If I was going to ask a question, I'd be curious to know, have you had a chance to design a unique item, or are you in the process of designing one?
Well, unfortunately, $1,000 is a little bit much for the YouTube wages. It is something I would like to do eventually, or maybe in the future. Maybe I don't know. I'm going to be with Path of Exile for a long time, so it's definitely something I want to do. And I have thought a bit about what sort of unique I'd want to do. So assuming I could get $1,000 from somewhere, the unique that I design would be one that rewarded people who planned a lot and like who thought about the game and had a good game knowledge moving forwards, and then were able to take advantage of it. So to make sense of this, my idea was to have a ring or something like that that can be equipped in either ring slot or the amulet slot, and depending which socket I don't know how technically feasible this is, depending on which spot you put it in, it gives you a massive boost to resistances for only one specific resist. So maybe the right hand gives you lightning resist. This is like maybe like 70 plus lightning resist and an increased lightning resist max cap, so you can overcap your lightning by a ridiculous amount and maybe like get it up to 80 or 85 or something like that. However, the drawback is that it reduces your other resistances to like negative 60 or something like that. So, you know, this isn't a very viable endgame item or anything like that. What it does reward, and assuming this drops nice and early on, so maybe it's droppable like a tabula rasa right from the very beginning, and what it does is it rewards people who know, okay, the Merveil fight, all about cold. I put this in this socket here, and she's not going to be able to hurt me. And then this next fight coming up, okay, there's going to be lightning there. This next zone, it's all about fire. We're going into crematorium, let's put the fire resist on. Rewards players who do that. I'm all about game knowledge, and I like swapping around resistance rings when you're leveling up to try and get rewarded by sort of knowing what's coming, and I think that would be a good unique that would reward that. Anyway, that's my idea at least.
Yeah, definitely. I think having a res ring would be fantastic. Yeah, that's a good one.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Also, it's nice if you know what the res is going to be, and you can just kind of obviously just down bosses quite easily in certain acts, but anyway, back to you, Kaysee.
Yep, Deepa, before we get to your next question, I thought we'll just cross to Crazy had a question. So, Crazy, do you want to pose your question you've just listed in chat there to Ziggy?
Sure thing, man.
It was super similar to the question asked previously, but like, how would you, I guess, how would you feel about like an item that opened up builds to say shields and such like that? Like a weapon, technically, like a shield that had physical damage based on blocked chance and stuff like that.
Man, I would love that so much. Okay, so here's my thing about shields. I'm in love with shields as like a part of history and an item, a piece of gear. And throughout history, shields were used very offensively. Like looking back over different like Celtic fighting styles and things like that, which I guess I am a little bit of a history buff. But seeing the way people used shields then, it was never as really defensive. Like sure, the Romans did like the whole testudo thing where there was defensive kind of looking, but all the time it was like you were attacking with your sword and shield at the same time. So having a shield with some sort of offensive capabilities on it, maybe you could even use it to attack with, but it also, you know, obviously still very defensive, would be super cool. Love to see something like that.
Yeah.
Awesome question, man.
Deepa.
Right, well, if you could add a new skill or mechanic to the game, what would you add?
So I'm gonna this one I've wanted this one for a very long time, and I've talked to Chris about it, and I'm pretty sure it's never going to come, at least not in the way I hope. But I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in this either, but I want Piety's Lightning Ball or something similar. Basically, a skill that you can cast, a spell, that is a big ball of moving energy, and then it attacks enemies multiple times as it passes through them. So maybe it does a lot of damage if it hits them, but it also arcs out and attacks them. Now, the reason why this can't come in its current form, and this is why Chris Wilson said that it's probably not coming anytime soon, is because it's ridiculously hard to balance something like that. When your Piety uses it against you, it's fine, you're just a single target. It's a pretty dangerous attack, like Piety's Lightning Ball. If you've ever sort of run along with it or got caught in it, you kind of know how dangerous that is. But against a tightly clustered packs of mobs, it would just change the entire farming metagame too much. Like, it would be so efficient to just cast those and kind of run with them, and everything would just get destroyed. So I think it would be way too OP. But I would love to see a spell like that. I'd love to have Piety's Lightning Ball. If that was announced to be added into the game in like 2 weeks' time, I would drop everything I was doing. I would suicide all of my characters, and I would plan a build for it.
So that's a bit like Frozen Orb from Diablo 2?
Yeah, a lot like Frozen Orb from Diablo 2. That'd work pretty much the same way.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to ask a question here on behalf of one of our other officers who actually lives in Canada now. He relocated recently, so he's probably asleep at this point in time. But it's a pile of fish, and he's got a question of what has been your best moment of PoE, and you're not allowed to refer to your recent epic one-hit health point moment shared on your YouTube site, which I think I saw 2 or 3 days ago that was released. So what's been your best moment in PoE, and what has been your worst moment?
Alright, well, besides that was a pretty epic moment, but I guess when you're asking, like, my best moment, or what has been the time that I've had the most fun with Path of Exile, it was starting the, first couple of weeks of Nemesis League was really insanely good for me. Around that time, I'd just gone full-time on YouTube, so I kind of had said to myself, I'm fully able to dedicate as much time to this as I can, and my content and everything's going to be a lot better if I can put in 10-hour days into Path of Exile. If I play at a very high level, my content's going to get better, and I'm probably going to enjoy it more. And my suspicions were very true. I jumped in, I played right from the very outside, despite ripping to Blood Rain in the Dominus fight in normal on my first character. I did eventually catch back up to the guys I was playing with. I was playing with Willy Wonka's crew and a few other guys. And just getting into the league on a really hardcore level, kind of early on as well, and doing a lot of the trading. Trading was so fun in those first few weeks. It was just so vibrant. The economy was just so pumping. It was really exciting to run a shop thread and have people contacting me constantly. I almost couldn't farm sometimes the amount of stuff I was selling that. And also jumping around, talking to different streamers, just chatting and playing with a lot of different people. It was just a whole new Path of Exile experience for me. So PoE is really a game that rewards you more the more you put into it. It's a bit tough if you have time limitations, and you can still really enjoy it if you can only play an hour or so a day. But if you can sink in that extra time and try and play really hard, it does really reward you for doing so. And I had a ton of fun at the start of Nemesis. And I guess my worst moment. I think my worst moment. I don't really have a thing that sucks. When I die in Path of Exile, I kind of enjoy it. I find it more entertaining than anything, so I never really get too annoyed about that, or even if I die to desync, it's just something that happens and is more entertaining than annoying. But my worst moment was probably trying to make a pure evasion ranger, and I'd actually tried this twice, and this was before any of the buffs, so before dodge was buffed to 40%, before the evasion wheel at Scion, or before all of that stuff, and there was even a buff before that. It was before a buff that was before those as well. Trying to make evasion work. I believed it could work, and I think it probably could have if I had gone for a shield max block sort of build, which is pretty popular now, but it was something nobody was really doing back then. But I tried to make an evasion bow character work. I really wanted it to work. I tried twice, was making build videos and everything, and people were super psyched for me to make it work, but I just couldn't. I couldn't. And it felt pretty disheartening, letting everyone down by making these crappy builds that just didn't work. So that was probably my worst moment, but then again, even that has an upside because I enjoyed the challenge, and despite the build sucking and feeling like a bit of a loser for a while there, I was able to kind of learn from that and make sick builds after that. So I guess I do categorize that as my worst moment in Path of Exile, though.
Fair enough. That evasion has caused a lot of pain, I think, for all the range classes throughout the PoE journey.
Definitely. So punishing.
I think we'll cross to Wargoat. Is he still? No, he's left. But what we'll do is I'll ask the question for him. It's being recorded, and he can come back to it later and check out the answer. So Wargoat wanted to know your opinion on not being able to inspect players in Path of Exile, and obviously it's to encourage people to make their own builds. But what if players could make it an option to have themselves inspectable or not? Do you see that as a option?
Yeah, I definitely agree with having an option to enable your characters to be seen, and that would be something I would definitely take advantage of, man. It would be so good to be able to just be like, make my characters and everything public, because I'm not exactly private about my builds, and people want to know a lot about my builds and characters and gear and everything I'm wearing, and I think that'd be really cool for people to do. So I'd love to see an option for that. I'm all for options generally. When it's something that's divisive for the community, just add an option in to have it. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be forced on everyone. But I do agree with the fact that by default they're not visible, because Path of Exile is a very competitive game. There's people trying to get tops of each league, there's people trying to get tops of races, and the ability for them to keep their build secret. And there's people who, even like today, have been using and perfecting a specific sort of build for a very long time. They've used it multiple times, and other people still can't figure out what they've actually done. Like, people have these insane builds, and they're like constantly winning things. And if they're not streaming or something like that, it's impossible to know what they do. So I think that's really cool. It adds like an extra depth and competitive layer to Path of Exile that I really like.
Fantastic. Deefa, do you want to ask the question?
Yeah, I can ask some questions here.
Sure.
Let's have a look. So creating gaming content, does it diminish your enjoyment of playing the game, or does it become a bit of a chore?
That's definitely something I was worried about coming into it, and a lot of other YouTubers that I've spoken to have said that is the case, especially where it gets to the point where like their gaming has sort of become their job, and that has like pretty negative connotations with it. But for me, with Path of Exile and StarCraft and Diablo, it's actually gone the opposite way. Making content about it, I stick to only making content I really enjoy, and that's why I cover less games. Like, I cover fewer games rather than covering all the new releases and stuff. I prefer to cover a few specific games that I really enjoy. And being able to make content that I really enjoy making, and being able to force myself to think about things on a deeper level actually makes me enjoy the game overall more. And I've had probably, as I said, coming into Nemesis for the first time, playing really hardcore and making much more hardcore content as well was really enjoyable for me, and I enjoyed it a lot more. So I definitely wouldn't be enjoying Path of Exile as much as I am now without the motivation of wanting to make content as well. So it's actually been a big motivator for me more than anything else, and it's definitely not feeling like a chore or anything now. What can I say? I love what I do.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I really kind of saw how you came into Path of Exile, and you still had the ZiggyD StarCraft alias, and then obviously at some point you jumped across and you dropped the StarCraft bit, and yeah, you've had some really great content there, and it's definitely been useful to refer some friends to some of your tutorials to help them.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that too.
I can ask another question if unless Kaysee wants to.
No, you keep going with Egros's question there.
Jump in. Okay. Well, apparently you've mentioned that you've got a partner before in your posts. Are they a gamer, and do they help you sort of produce content, or do they just put up with your hobby, or what's?
I bet me talking now, Amy's attention is going to be grabbed. She's actually sitting on the other side of the room. What are you playing at the moment, Ames? Path of Exile?
Yeah, I'm doing my Valorant. Is a 5-link weapon good?
A 5-link weapon is very good. Nice. She found a 5-link. So that answers that question. She is playing Path of Exile right now. That's Amy, aka Electo Blade, aka Gilbertomy, on some YouTube and things like that. And This is a pretty interesting question, actually. Like, I'm not worried about talking about this at all. Amy's actually my PA now, my personal assistant for YouTube. That's kind of been a recent development, moving into full-time and realizing that I want to answer every single comment and message that gets sent to me, but it's just not been possible. So she actually helps me by sorting out all the messages and stuff like that. She hasn't played a direct role in producing content so much, although she does kind of help me where she can sometimes, like when I do unique spotlight videos each week, or whenever a new patch comes out, that sort of thing. She'll go and grab the artwork and all that sort of stuff for me and put it together, so that's like a big help. But she's been a gamer ever since she was young. I think her older brothers kind of got her into it, playing Doom and stuff on PC, and she played a lot of Dungeon Siege And so it's kind of funny, but for a long time she didn't play any action RPGs. But getting into Path of Exile recently, I guess it's kind of reawoken what she really enjoyed about Dungeon Siege, and she plays a lot of Path of Exile now. In fact, we've been farming together with my my domination character that I've been doing for the Path of Exile Survival Guide series, and we've been doing some farming. And whenever I farm with her, I have intense luck. So if you can get your partner or a friend into gaming and play with them, you're probably going to have better RNG. I'm pretty sure that that's the case. And I've gotten some sick drops with her, including an Exalt recently. Oh, yeah.
Well done.
Just get yelled at.
Fantastic.
You have to kind of slowly over time work them more and more into gaming. It helps if they're a gamer first, but it is possible to turn them into a gamer if they've never been a gamer before. And you just have to kind of just have to slowly introduce them, work their way up, play different games, and play different games with them, play some co-op games. We actually played Diablo 3 on the console for a while together, which is if you say what you want about Diablo, but the sickest game on console to play with your partner is Diablo 3 because it restricts you to the same screen and everything has been designed in it to make it less rage-inducing than any other game. With your partner is super frustrating sometimes because I like to run off. I'm super efficient Path of Exile play pro gamer sort of thing, and she likes to take her time, so I tend to leave her behind a bit and she gets frustrated at me. But playing Diablo 3, restricting it to the one screen, and that was fun. We had so much fun doing that, and that probably led to her playing Path of Exile now, actually. It's possible.
I have heard good things about the D3 console version. It's everything that you've just said, and it does sound like a great game to actually play, a great version of it. And also sensing maybe some future content for you where you can put out a tutorial for other gamers to get their partners involved into Path of Exile and other games like that.
I did an article one time about back when I was playing StarCraft about how to get your girlfriend or partner or whatever into StarCraft 2, and I would definitely like to redo something for that, for hardcore gaming and action RPG and stuff like that. Getting your partner into Path of Exile, definitely something I might make in the future. Good idea.
Just to pick up something you mentioned before about Amy and her brothers, I can't believe her brothers let her play games with them, because when I was growing up, I used to hide all my good games from my sisters so I could play them by myself.
Well, I think with younger siblings, playing games generally means you stand behind me and watch while I play, and I'm sure that was the case for a lot of the time with Amy.
I was so addicted. No, I can't find that game anywhere.
Oh, holy crap! I'm actually wrong. They actually land. They set up multiple computers and land Doom together.
No, I just ran through looking at the posters.
Ah, okay. No, well, there you go.
Okay. Got a question here from another member who's not online called Bemoose. So shout out to Bemoose. Similar to your endgame build with unlimited currency, but this time he wants to know what would be the best endgame class or build if you had a very restrictive budget.
I'm going to cheat a little bit here and say also the best sort of build I think for leveling on a mad budget without being an endgame build. Recently, Amy's been playing my Searing Bond Fire Trap Templar, and I realized that you can get a Searing Touch Star for 2 chaos, and that is all you need to buy. That build needs no links, needs the basest whatever gear you just find, whatever crap gear you find, and it deals so much damage that everything just dies. And she's been obliterated. She's been doing better than my beginner's tanky ranger and stuff like that. So that's the super cheapest one to get to endgame. But I think its endgame potential is not that great. In terms of endgame potential for really cheap, I don't know. People like to say summoners a lot, but I've actually heard the opposite recently, that summoners are a bit more expensive to get going really strong. I really can't answer that question without saying builds that I've played myself. And from the builds, all of the builds I've played since starting Path of Exile, the recent ACE Scion's definitely been the cheapest one to get to endgame and be really effective at endgame. I think even though you can buy some really nice gear for that, as long as you can just get a 5-link, I think, is the only really thing that I would really try and push to get, and you can still even do it on a 4-link. But with really no currency, you can sort of be pretty effective and pretty safe in hardcore with a very cheap sort of build. So Ethereal Knives is always a go-to sort of cheap and reliable sort of build, and that one I think has done pretty well with it too.
So when you say cheap, can we guesstimate a sort of budget here of what we're talking about? Is it 2 exalts, 3 exalts worth of currency, or?
What do you actually kind of strip it down to what you need for the build? I think the only thing I would say that you would actually try and spend some money on getting into maps would be the 5-link, and you can get like a 5-link for like 5-10 chaos. It could be a white 5-link. It doesn't really matter with that build. So I'd say, yeah, in terms of currency, if you can get like 5 or 10 chaos, then you'll be able to gear it for endgame. But the thing what I like to think about in cheap builds is ones that require no external input. So basically, like with that build, I was able to start with nothing in the new league and farm it up to endgame with self-found gear, and then use whatever things it found, whatever currency drops it had, to buy the gear that it needed to get and do maps. I think if you're ever going to define a cheap build, look for ones that you can do like that don't require any sort of bankrolling from previous characters' efforts.
Okay, I'll throw over to Crazy. He had another question on the fly here about notice. So Crazy, you want to pose that to Ziggy?
Yeah. Do you think that any specific element is weak in terms of like the range of the abilities that you can use for that element, or just them not being very strong?
That used to be the case. I think they're all doing pretty well now, actually. There's still some areas with fire that's a bit lacking. The idea for fire is that it's either supposed to have really good burns, or that it is a more reliable source of damage, and in some instances fire just, I guess people that probably tried to play fireball builds and stuff like that without putting a lot of effort into really pumping out the damage of fireball, you feel like you're throwing wet sponges at enemies. But sometimes fire spells are a little bit weak, I feel. But overall, in terms of just base elements, the nerf to lightning recently probably brought them in line with the other two, and the fact that it's been brought down, I feel like they're all pretty effective now. Ice is not really about the damage. Ice is about CC, and it does really well at that, like with people doing a lot of perma-freeze prolif builds and stuff like that now. Probably even Ice might be a little bit crazy now because of stuff that's going on with Ice Mine at the moment. But that said, fire spells are getting a buff in the next patch, I believe, so that'll probably bring it more in line even there, so that's pretty cool. I think they're all doing pretty well now. In the past, certainly, though, there was some big disparities between the elements, but I think it's doing pretty well now.
Fantastic. Yes, yeah, there are some fire buffs coming. A bit of a fun group question here that a lot of people want to know, because we were talking about it the other night, is do you play Path of Exile better when you're drunk? A bit like people play 8-ball better when they're drunk.
I've never been game to get like super totaled and play some hardcore, but when I can get my hands on some nice Australian craft beers or whatever, and recently I found out someone had some like belated birthday presents for me, and I managed to acquire 4 6-packs, and this is not something that happens very often for me. Again, YouTuber budget, I'm trying to keep things as cheap as possible, so beer is a bit of a luxury, but when I can get it, I don't mind having a few beers while playing some Poe. But yeah, I've never tested the getting trashed and playing hardcore. Maybe that will be something for the future to see if that I actually do play better or worse. I'm guessing worse though. I can't imagine how I'd play better. I think the 8-ball thing might be a bit of a different story there, since that's a pub game, I guess. Path of Exile is not really a pub game.
Yeah, this just stemmed from a conversation. One of our guild members was playing a bit drunk the other night, and he hasn't yet made it to maps, and he's complaining about always dying, and he's doing quite well on this character he's playing at the moment, but he's saying he is drunk, and he's getting close to that sort of map ready level, and we just kept telling him, look, get off now, you're drunk, don't go challenging Val or someone like that, come back when you're refreshed, don't play drunk.
Well, maybe there is something legit to that, because if you're a very nervous sort of player playing hardcore and you're feeling a little bit like, you don't have much confidence, and you're not willing to YOLO it sometimes, you will have a very hard time progressing. And in fact, sometimes being nervous will get you killed because you won't stand and fight when you should, and you'll like try and run away and you'll get killed when you shouldn't, like life leeching and things like that. Sometimes will keep you alive better than running. And maybe he lowered his inhibitions enough to be a confident player and played confidently and played well. Who knows?
And a quick one before we head into some sort of questions without notice. Any chance of a Brady Games PoE guide coming out with your contribution?
Well, the written media still goes pretty well in Australia. I do like the magazine stand culture here, and I guess if someone approached me, I would help them write up a Path of Exile guide. But I don't have any plans for it yet. Like the idea of like making a guide, written guide, all collated and everything, and selling it, isn't something I'm naturally against, because people like to say, that's really money grabby or really scammy, and a lot of those guides are scams. But sometimes people like to, pay a few dollars to have something that is everything they want to know in one place. So I guess I wouldn't be against maybe doing something like a pro guide at some point, but certainly no immediate plans.
I find they're good books for the toilet bookshelf.
Yeah, that's true. If something really high production quality with like lots of sweet images and art and stuff in it, I'd definitely be up for getting involved in that, partnering up with someone to make something like that. That'd be sick. If Brady Games want to approach me, if you're listening, Brady Games, I'm willing to maybe do something like that.
Can I just say something? I think it would be pretty hard to do a really good guide for this game because it always has been evolving.
Yeah.
It always changes, man. Like, one skill comes in and it's like, whoa, let's rewrite the book.
Yeah, I definitely experienced that a lot myself. Whenever I want to keep my videos and stuff up to date as much as possible, but yeah, the amount of changes and the fact that they're constantly patching, which is like fantastic how often they bring in new content and changing things around, definitely makes it difficult. I think if I were to write a guide or something like that, I wouldn't ever include any specific information. I would be more like how to be a good player. So, as specific as I can be without it being this skill does this much damage, which might change in the future, that sort of thing.
Okay, so I'll just kick off some questions without notice here, which have sort of come up tonight. So, someone wanted to know, apparently he thinks you put on a bit of a special voice when you sign off your YouTube clips. Do you put on a special voice? And if so, how did you come up with this special voice?
Yes, it is true, I do. And this is something that developed over time, and what really consolidated was one day that someone said that, this was months and months ago, it was like 6 months ago, but someone left a comment saying that the way you sign out your videos makes me feel sexually uncomfortable. And ever since that day, I've been trying to push it slightly more and more each video, Some days it might be a little bit more relaxed, but other days I just try and make it just sultry enough so that it makes some of my viewers uncomfortable. And that is the voice, and it sounds something like this. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that noticed it.
No, awesome. Yeah, it's true. It's there. Very
Good
perceptive.
stuff.
Is that part of the
I felt
marketing thing
uncomfortable.
coming in, do you think? Just trying to throw a curveball in there, or?
Well, like from a technical standpoint, starting and ending your video is the same every time. Well, I guess it's not really required, but if you do something like that and then later try to change it, people get really cranky. And for a while, I stopped doing the "G'day ZiggyD" here at the start of my videos, and people were a little bit upset about that. So it is definitely, it is definitely a little bit of a marketing thing. But mostly I just do it because it's fun.
And Stay Classy Ray class is already taken, I think.
Yes, I love. Who's that? Edgar Allan Poe. That one.
No,
Yeah.
I was thinking Anchorman.
Is it?
Stay Classy Seattle, is that what he says? Or Stay Classy?
There's an Edgar Allan Poe YouTuber who does something similar to that. Stay Classy Ray Class or something like that.
Awesome.
It's cool. I really like his intros and outros.
Deefa, you're next, mate.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious how you play the game, like locally. I don't think I've seen you mention your setup, if you just use the normal keyboard, mouse, like typical 1 to 5 Q to T configuration, or do you do anything special there?
Super different. I have a super different setup, and I'll actually boot up Path of Exile to mention it, so give me a sec.
Sure.
Okay, while you're doing that, do you have any thoughts on the GameSpot PC Game of the Year 2003 winner, Path of Exile?
Yeah, sick. Path of Exile has been getting so much coverage recently, and like people say GameSpot's gone downhill a little bit recently, but it's still a very, very good thing to see happen. And the amount of front cover of magazines and Steam up on top of Steam and GameSpot's PC Game of the Year and there's been another one recently announced today, I think it was, where it was most something MMO alternative MMO style game, whatever that means. But just all of this sort of stuff is awesome and super deserved. People are starting to realize and talk about how sick this game is, how actually amazing it is, like what ZiggyD have done and how good they're doing everything. And it's pretty awesome to see that start to get recognized. Like there was recently Total Biscuit saying even that just, this game is amazing, rather than people saying that, this is kind of like a low budgety sort of game or something like that, like they were in the past. Now people are starting to realize, wow, this game's actually pretty fantastic. But I'm in game now, so here's my setup, and try and follow along. Maybe try and follow along by looking at your keyboard and seeing where you put your hands. And this is actually something that's happened over a long time of optimization. It started off in Diablo, and I've carried it through to Path of Exile and improved it here. But basically, Panic Flask is spacebar. You want to be able to mash that whenever it happens. So I've rebound pretty much everything. My skills are 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have one skill on mouse button 5. Left mouse click is move only. Always bind that to move only. If you're binding that to an attack, you will die from that. Some builds maybe can get away with like Leap Slam or something on there, but I always, pretty much every character I have has move only on left click. Middle mouse button I just use for auras or something supplementary that doesn't get used too much, because I feel like using middle mouse button too often takes a lot of control away from in terms of mouse movements, and right clicks generally like my main AoE attack with 1 or something being a mobility and things like that, but that doesn't really matter too much. Just 1 through 4. Now, instead of shift for hold position, I've rebound that to tab. So what that means is put your hand on your keyboard, put your pinky on tab, and then your other 3 fingers on 1, 2, and 3. How comfortable is that? That's like the natural position of your hand. Yeah? Everyone? Anyone?
Yeah, that's pretty comfy.
Yeah, and then your thumb's like leaning, like just gently caressing the spacebar. And if you're in panic, you're instantly going to be able to use that spacebar panic heal. Now, move your pinky up 1 button, the tilde key. That is my Quicksilver Flask key, or more recently the Quartz Flask, because those flasks are sick when you put adrenaline on them. But and then you've got your fingers on the other keys. You can reach across to 4 nice and easily to use that sort of skill. I usually have something like a decoy totem or a curse on that, and the rest of the other 3 are ones you need to use all the time. And then my 2 healing flasks, generally depends on the build, but 2 healing flasks are on Q and W. So basically, you pop your ring finger or whatever it is down 1 key to press Q, and then your middle finger down to press W. And then I have S, which is your pointer finger, just sort of curls back on itself, presses S, and that's usually like a granite or something like that. And I think that's pretty much everything else. I have like the mini map, the overlay map on B or something like that, so I just reach up with my thumb above the spacebar. And that's my setup. It's certainly very different from default, but I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I like it.
Yeah, I just find it
All about avoiding
interesting
that hamstring.
just to see how people configure their local setups, because a lot of people online who stream seem to have the typical setup, and I just find it rather unwieldy having like the 5 buttons and then the 5 buttons. But yeah, no, that's a very different one actually. I haven't heard of that one before, so nice.
Yeah, well, the thing about action RPGs is the way you're playing is your hands not moving around a lot. When you're playing something like StarCraft, your hands all over the keyboard, and that's really good from like a hand strain point of view. You're actually kind of straight muscles and moving around and stuff, as long as you're doing things right. You're not going to hurt yourself. But with action RPGs, you're playing for a few hours and your hand's not really moving. So if you're in a contorted sort of position, like having your pinky on shift, which I absolutely hate, I loathe that is the standstill key. Having your pinky on shift means that it's like curled down, your hands kind of twisted, and sitting like that for a long time, I feel is just brutal. Brutal. You will hurt yourself if you're playing for a lot like that.
Yeah, I've got my standstill key being my actual space bar, so it's easy just to hold down anywhere. Yeah,
pretty viable. I know a lot of people that use that as well. I think that's a good one too. Great question, man. I love that question. I love talking about my key setup.
Any kind of mouse, by the way? Any brand of mouse you're using there, or keyboard, like a mechanical keyboard?
Yeah, I'm using a Razer Death Adder at the moment. I've had this for since I started StarCraft, and I've had this same mouse since I started StarCraft. Like the mouse cable is like all sticky taped and stuff now because it had been fraying and stuff. But the mouse itself has been fantastic. It's just like super simple. It's just got 2 side buttons and the normal buttons, but it's very comfortable and has been very reliable. It's a Razer Black Widow, like a backlit one because I like to play in the dark. But it's okay. I wouldn't say it's exceptional. It's nowhere near as good as the mouse. And it feels a little bit clunky when you first start to use it compared to other mechanical keyboards, but yeah, it seems to work alright. I'm still not happy with the keyboard.
Did you get the Razer footprint as well?
I did not get the Razer footprints. I do think they're an abomination.
Yeah.
No, nice. I've
Yep.
got a Death Adder as well, and I actually recently upgraded to the 2013 edition, and it's actually the same goodness, but they've kind of increased the bar a bit. It's quite nice.
Just nicer quality, or
The tactile feel is nice, like the actual plastics on the buttons are nicer. And the side bits where you sort of cling on with your thumb and your finger, it's slightly rubberized, and it's got little dimples on them, so it just feels nice, and it doesn't weigh as much. And yeah, I definitely recommend it. If you've been using the, I think it's the 4G, that was the previous model that they had, or the 3G 3.5.
mine was like a V2 or something. But yeah, if Razer want to send me a free mouse, I'd definitely do that. But I would be afraid to try a different mouse now after playing with this one so long. So maybe I'd upgrade to the newer version of the same model. Would be pretty nice. But yeah, I'm not looking to upgrade my gear in a while yet, because can't really afford that sort of thing. But hopefully I'm holding out on the hope that someone's going to send me some freebies soon. It happens very rarely, but hopefully it happens at some point.
So you've kind of mentioned a few times you're on this budget, and obviously you're in Australia, and we don't really have that sort of esports scene. So how do you see the sort of gaming industry in Australia, and do you think it's going to grow enough to support competitive esports?
Like, our biggest problem has always been our size in terms of supporting an esports community. Like, you know, we have comparatively like as much space as the US, but much less people in that space. And in the US, you know, people like will hold a esports event in one state, and people come from neighboring states to go visit it and such. But that just can't really happen in Australia that much. Like, we'll always have a kind of a thriving smaller scene in terms of esports. But yeah, I don't see it ever growing too much apart from the online component of it. But in terms of like professional people like gaming and doing what I do, like full-time gaming and streaming and YouTubing, I think that has a lot of potential. We're in a point now where if you're able to get in now, if you have any aspirations to do this yourself, now's a fantastic time to do it. And this is before the NBN is in place. And with the NBN being up and in the air, that's a little bit concerning. But if you can get in before that sort of happens and before it's accessible for everyone to start streaming, then I think there's a lot of potential for a lot of Australian people to reach out. The global community really enjoys Australian commentators and stuff as well. Where we have, it's an endearing accent. People enjoy it from an accent point of view, but it's also really easy to understand. So people from a lot of other countries, and people especially with English as a second language, have an easier time with either an English or an Australian accent rather than a US accent. So that's why a lot of ESL teachers overseas are Australian. And I think from like a commentator point of view, or someone streaming and stuff like that, it's really appealing. So we have that going for us at least. And hopefully with some NBN access soon, streaming will be a big thing as well.
Hang on, I'll be back. Just go tell the wife about my career change.
Good stuff. I like it.
Yeah, it'd be nice to stream on Twitch, but we just don't have the upload speed to support it, so...
I certainly know that feeling. I want to stream so badly. The 2 times that I've streamed, and keep in mind, this was like 100p, 1 FPS stream of my web browser. I wasn't able to play any games or anything. I had 1,200 viewers, one of them, and it was just so fun, like talking to people and doing that live interaction. Like, I love answering the comments on YouTube, but it's still not quite, it's not quite live, even if I'm answering them like 30 seconds after they posted sometimes. But, having that live interaction with people and being able to bounce ideas off them and get a lot of feedback is amazing. Something I'm super keen to get onto. But yeah, the NBN thing is the issue. 0.8 megabytes just doesn't cut it, and that's what I'm currently on. But as for myself, I'm looking for a house in an NBN area at the moment. Trying to get one. Hopefully I'll be able to start streaming myself soon.
Fantastic.
That does seem to be a solution. Good luck. So yeah, back to you, Kaysee. Do we need to sort of wrap things up, or...?
Yeah, we're starting to run out of some time. We're a bit late starting, but we've still got a few more minutes.
Yeah.
So another question we had here was, what do your friends, family, contemporaries think of your decision to become a full game content producer for games? Streamer, YouTuber.
They've always been pretty supportive of me doing whatever I want to do or think is right, but a lot of my family certainly don't understand it. Like, they're starting to understand it a bit more now, and I'm describing it. And now that I'm sort of earning like a full-time wage and kind of occasionally communicating that fact to them. And like I might get like a sibling or something, like say something like, when are you getting a real job? And I say, well, what's the difference between what I do now? If I went and got a full-time retail job now, I'd probably actually be earning less and doing something I hate. So I think they're starting to get that message now. But my family's always been really independent. Like we've all been allowed to sort of just do our own thing, and lots of trust there. And I guess they've been pretty supportive when I've needed it and that sort of thing. So no real problems there. But you definitely do run into people that just don't get it. And like applying for houses now, there's people that just don't get it. They're like, what do you do for a living? How are you earning money? And even when I show them like, here's this statement of me about to be paid a normal amount of money, enough to afford this house, I still think maybe sometimes they're a little bit unsure about it. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of unsurety about it from a lot of people. But I've never really, apart from random internet commenters, I've never really had people think what I was doing was stupid or hate what I was doing.
Fantastic. I do want to sort of relate back to your answers there on that question as we head to our sign-off, because I think there's some really relative stuff there. But we've just got one other question to sort of sidetrack off to. What other games are you playing at the moment? Obviously, you've spent time in StarCraft 2 and now the beta for the Reaper of Souls. But you're also starting to look at Hearthstone and Star Citizen. Any other games as well?
Yeah, I've definitely been playing lots of Reaper of Souls beta. It's pretty fun. It's showing promise. I don't know how long it'll keep my attention for over Path of Exile, but we'll see. It'll definitely be something I can play in the lead up to launch and for a month or two after that. I did play quite a bit of Hearthstone, but I haven't really gotten back into it recently. So I really enjoyed it. It's a pretty sweet game, but yeah, just haven't been playing that so much. I have been sort of gearing up to play some older games, some older flight games, and Free Space. I recently bought Free Space 1 and 2 from Good Old Games, and I'm getting a flight stick for Christmas, so I'm super psyched to get into these old games that are like some of my favourite games of all time, and do some sick dogfighting, this time with a flight stick, whereas when I was younger I was using a keyboard and mouse and it was pretty rubbish. But I'm looking forward to doing that. And along a similar sort of sign is there's an upcoming game called Star Citizen that's been crowdfunded, and it's very sort of sandboxy style space MMO that does a lot of things. It allows you to do sort of what you want, kind of like EVE Online, but more graphical and I guess a bit more involved, less spreadsheety. But I'm kind of looking forward to that. That's probably not till 2015. That's kind of the thing I'm sort of gearing up to play. Other than that, I like to sort of warm up in the morning by playing a little bit of Osu. That's a Japanese rhythm game. It's kind of like a beat game. You just sort of upload whatever songs in there you want, and it has just these tracks that you sort of like click and stuff. So I guess it's a mouse accuracy sort of thing. That's something I carried over from when I was playing StarCraft. A lot of people use that to sort of build their mouse accuracy for StarCraft. But other than that, I haven't really been playing StarCraft in a long time either, and it's something I want to do more of. But just with the Path of Exile and Diablo and stuff like that being super absorbing, not too much time for other games. I tend to stick to a few games and really in-depthly play them and cover them and that sort of jazz, so I don't play too many other ones.
Fair enough. Fantastic. Okay, well that pretty much wraps up a lot of the official questions and questions about notes we've had written. So I'm just going to throw it open now to the room. If anyone's got any other topics or questions, now's the time. Try not to talk over each other. Just shoot them out.
Yeah, anything's fair game. It'll be awesome.
I have one that was actually asked by someone else, but did the content ID match actually affect you at all on the YouTube side of things?
No, it hasn't yet. And what actually happened with that was I'm with Boom, which is an Australian network, and this is only pretty recent. I've only recently joined them. But apparently they told YouTube to, because Australian was kind of like last on the list to scan Australian YouTubers, and they said, you guys should probably hold off until you get it sorted. So I don't think I've actually been subject to the new scans yet, so I haven't had any issues. But even when that does happen, and if that does happen, and if not fixed when it does happen, I'm not too worried, because the sort of content I've always made has been pretty content ID friendly. And indeed, like, I only joined a network a few months ago, and before that I was actually dealing with every day. Like, every piece of content I uploaded went through the content ID scan system. So I got really good at avoiding flags. You just over time, like doing it for 2 years, you kind of learn what flags and avoid all that sort of stuff. So I never use any music or trailers or anything like that. and I tend to cover games like Diablo and StarCraft and Path of Exile, where the developers are super YouTube friendly. So I have like a direct letter from Chris and stuff like that, and haven't had too many issues. But the changes in January are pretty concerning, especially because my network has said, despite that good thing that they did, they have said that they'll be making most of their partners affiliates rather than managed, which means that we will be subject to these scans. And this potentially means that things like news videos and such might be delayed by 3 days. And, could you imagine, like, I'm trying to put up, like, my patch, 1.0.5 Path of Exile video, and it comes up, like, 3 days after it's been up. It's just a way to make it super less competitive, because there's some sort of competition between YouTube and streaming, and, streamers can get onto everything quicker. The idea with YouTube is that we do it to a higher quality and do it a little bit later, but doing it 3 days later is just way too much. So I'm a little bit nervous by that, but big part of being a YouTuber is being very adaptable and flexible and overcoming these issues, so I think I'll be okay.
Anyone else? Going once, twice? I think we're done.
Question?
Oh, great.
You were talking about space games. Have you tried X Rebirth?
What was that?
X Rebirth? Do you know the Ecosoft X series?
No, I haven't tried it. I think someone did mention that to me. Don't do it. Did someone say don't do it?
Yes, that was a Galatia.
Is it too addictive or something, it sounds like?
No. Compared to their old games, it's fucking terrible. I'm sorry. It's terrible.
That's all good. But I think someone recommended the older version of that game. It sounds like the name sounds pretty familiar. But no, I haven't really heard of it or seen it.
No, my boyfriend was waiting for it for ages. Like, it was 7 years in development, and it was just a huge letdown to him. He already uninstalled it and just forgot about it.
Oh, well, that sounds like a bit of a disappointment. I like space dogfighting games, though, so I don't know. I'm looking for more, but I'll be playing Free Space next.
Yeah, try one of the older ones, like X Terran Conflict or something like that. They're actually quite nice.
That's the one. That's the one that was suggested to me. I'll write that down because I do want to remember that.
And with the new one, I think they'll fix it up. That's what they usually do. They release like half-finished games and then fix them up.
Except they tried to make it for console, and that didn't go too well.
Yeah, it's early to say.
How do you manage to implement the feedback you get from your YouTube comments to your actual production? Is there any process you take?
I try to, wherever I can, if I'm doing something like a series, like the Path of Exile Survival Guide series, rather than recording that all at once and then uploading over time, like a lot of people do with Let's Plays and things like that, I try to do them daily so that whenever I get feedback, I can react to it straight away. But, I don't know, otherwise, it's like, a lot of the feedback and stuff you'll get will be really harshly worded online, because people have this sort of measure of anonymity, and maybe they just got home from work and are feeling a little bit shitty, and a lot of stuff will come off as trolling, and someone will leave a comment that's like, sounds really harsh, and other people will come to my defense and sort of bag them out and stuff like that, but I'll actually read their comment and say, hold on, they actually have a legit piece of criticism here, even though it's hidden behind trolling and stuff like that. There's actually something that I can react to here. So I just try and... the biggest advice I can give for anyone when doing anything online is to ignore the tone in which things are presented and just try and get to the what's actually behind it. Because even if people are being absolute pricks to you, sometimes what they're actually saying is pretty legit. So that's kind of the way I feel about that.
Fantastic. Yeah, treat the content, not the tone. Well, that about wraps it up. From our perspective, I'd just like to say on behalf of Alpha Crucis Exiles that thank you very much, Ziggy, for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend with us and answer our questions. And we hope you've enjoyed it, and we hope these become a bit of a regular occurrence, probably every second month or so, and not necessarily with Ziggy, but other guest speakers that we can get through. And yeah, so just thank you very much for your time, and I'll throw over to you in a sec. But you touched on before about, this is a living for you. This is how you earn your money. And so how can people help you make more money? What can they do, and where should they go to check out your content?
YouTube's the place to go, just searching ZiggyD, or if you search anything Path of Exile, chances are you'll find my content. I've made a good effort in ensuring that is the case. So look for stuff on YouTube for Path of Exile. Otherwise, recently, like since the launch and just before the launch, I had a lot of my supporters, sort of recognize that there was a lot of new players coming to the game, and I had a lot of good content for new players coming to the game. So they shared my content around, and people always say this, like favorite share and all that jazz. But seriously, the word of mouth has been a huge deal for me. I've like quadrupled the amount of people watch content over the past couple months, thanks to people just sort of sharing it around like that. So that's definitely the biggest thing anyone could ever do for me, is if you see a video and it's helped you, and you're trying to get your friend into the game, or you're trying to help someone else out, or you see someone asking a question on the forums, then sharing that sort of stuff around is the best thing to do. Otherwise, if you just want to find my content, you can go to ZiggyD.tv, that's my website, or just search for me on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. I'm on all of those.
So basically, traffic helps drive up, or helps keep you streaming?
Yeah, that's it. I'm able to earn it. I've been fortunate enough to get to the point now where I'm able to earn a living off the ad revenue primarily, so I don't need to rely on donations or anything like that. So just like getting the word of mouth happening and helping that way is the biggest thing you can do, because that sort of growth is going to secure my future more importantly than help me out now. It's the same sort of idea of give a man a fish or teach him to fish, that sort of thing. Just helping me out long term is helping that growth along.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for coming online on our Mumble server and sharing.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. It was really cool. A really cool idea. And I actually do want you to sort of shout out what the guild's about, because even I'm a little bit unsure of what it's all about. I understand it's Australian guild, but I've had a lot of people ask me, Australian gamers looking for Australian guild. So you should definitely do a shout out, because I'm going to chuck this up on YouTube at some point.
Sure, Deefa, you can do the guild spiel, mate.
Right.
The guild spiel.
Well, I guess when we realised there was this great game, we started playing it, and we met other players, for me, during open beta, and generally I think there was a lot of consensus among the regulars that we wanted a guild. So when the guild system came into play with release, I kind of just banded up together with a few people I'd met, Kaysee would be an example, and just sort of thought it would be really great to get people that were playing on our gateway server together in the guild, because I think something that we can all agree with, being Australians and then playing with other people in different instances around the world, there's a lot of frustration from the people from overseas and from us. So it's really great to find a bunch of people that play the way that we want to play. And that frustration is just due to latency and ping times, not necessarily personalities, isn't it? Yeah, no, exactly. It's
I figured that.
It's about being able to loot, because really you wanted to do that, free loot for all thing, but it's impossible if your ping's like 300 to Europe or 200 to the US. So really, Kaysee and ourselves, we love playing the hardcore variant of the game. We love racing. We want to get into PvP when it comes through properly. And we sort of thought we'd try to focus our guild on those three things, and hopefully people would come and join. And we've been really lucky. We've got a great group of people who've sort of joined the guild since release, and I think we're doing pretty well. But I mean, we can't really tell until we see this sort of guild point system come through. But we've really enjoyed it. And Kaysee, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, so just in brief, sort of Alpha Crucis Exiles, we're Australian Gateway Guild, so for Australian-based players, Oceanic-based players, but in saying that, we do have a couple of people based in other countries around the world. They just join our guild with the understanding that they're happy to play on the Australian Gateway with us, because we're such cool people. Our guild focus is mainly on Nemesis, or the 4-month hardcore leagues, the racing and PvP when that becomes more complete, and helping our members complete all individual challenges, guild challenges, and ladder rankings. And we really promote the idea of being ACE, which conveniently matches our sort of acronym for our guild name, but it's about being active, being competitive, and just being engaged. And that just means playing the game, playing it to improve yourself and the guild, and just being social with us. So that's our philosophy.
Awesome stuff. So you guys are accepting new members, and how can people find you?
Yep. So accepting new members, we've got our guild recruitment page through the PoE website. So if you go to the forums there, the guild recruitment, I think there's a short list of a summary of all the guilds. You can look for us in there, just to search on Alpha Crucis Exiles or ACE. Or you can find myself in game as Kaysee, or actually SKC will get through to me, or you can find Defa in game under the name Defa.
Awesome stuff, and I'll put a link in the description below as well to make it nice and easy.
Fantastic.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me, guys. It was a blast. I really enjoyed. The questions were all really sweet, and you guys are all a pleasure to talk to.
Fantastic.
Thanks,
you're welcome to
ZiggyD.
hang around for as long as you want. And anytime you want to come back onto our Mumble or just play with us, feel free to join in. And yeah,
I think I'll definitely do that. I'm looking for some more people to play with, and I do agree. It is nice to be able to just jump on an Australian game with people. I always like when I feel like farming some docs, and I see, oh, there's an Australian docs farming group. I'm like, definitely, I'll jump on there. Everyone's always super cool. I'm gonna go have some dinner, but thanks for that, guys. It was awesome.
fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome.
See you later.
Ziggy.
Thanks, man. See ya.
See you, Ziggy.